All right, here we go. Today we're starting absolute value. There is a little bit of math work we need to do here. It's not going to be a lot. I'm going to make you do minimal amount. It's about half as much as I used to make other people do in past years, but I just want to get this done. And it's also the way that Mrs. McKnight does it. So important thing here to know is we're looking for a vertex. A vertex is where an object comes together. So if I had these two that's the vertex. When we were doing two lines, remember we had the two lines crossing? Where they intersect is the vertex. So we need to know where that vertex is. That kind of gives us an idea of one side or the other of the object, because an absolute value graph is symmetrical. What happens on one side of the vertex happens exactly the same on the other side of the vertex. Here's the formula. A is the expansion or contraction of the V, because it's going to look like this, and it's going to tell us whether it's tight or really wide V. We're not going to be dealing with those right now. And then the inside, note that this is negative H, and anytime we have that minus in front, what does that mean, Mary? It means negative 1, right? Which means it's the opposite of. Anytime we multiply by a negative 1, it's the opposite of it. So if this were 2 like it is, then the answer for that would be what? H would be what? 2 or negative 2. Note that the K is what it is. So it's the opposite of the inside and keep the outside of it. So the vertex, what we're looking for here, is negative 2, negative 4. We did the opposite of the H and kept the K. So I need to find that on my graph. Here's 0. This is the X. So I need to go to the negative 2 on the X and then go to the negative 4 on the Y, which is right here. And if I can just count down 4. So I went 1, 2, negative 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. So I went, if I follow those two across, that's where the line comes in. This is a 7th, 8th grade standard to be able to graph a dot. Now, what I am going to ask you to do, once you graph that, is we're going to put our axis of symmetry. Put a nice dashed line, means there's no real line there, right? It's an idea. So what happens on this side of the line, it has to exactly happen on the other side of the line. Now we need to do a little math. We have this formula up here, y equals the absolute value. We don't know x, and that's what we want to figure out, or what we want to grab. So I took the x and I changed the x. Does everybody see that? Into parentheses, because I'm going to put an x value in there. I choose the x value. So if I look, this is at negative 2. I want to choose negative 1, or the exact other side, negative 3. Me, I'm picking negative 1 because it's an easy one to do. I could go all the way to 0 if I want to. You could do that too. But I always did negative 1 because I used to have you do 2 dots. I'm going to do 2, but you don't have to do that. Now we have to do everything inside the absolute value symbols. There is no distribute here. If there was a number on the outside, which is that A, you would not distribute that number. You have to do everything on the inside. So this is negative 1 plus 2. What is negative 1 plus 2? Nope. What? No. Negative 1, it's 1. Use your calculators, guys. Does everybody know what absolute value means? Or do I have to do a side lesson here? All right. Most people think that the absolute value, so if we have 2 and we have negative 2, the absolute value of 2 is 2, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. Everybody says, okay, well, you just knock the negative off of everything and or just keep what it is. But you need to know why that is true. So we have a number line. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, and a number line this way goes to the negative numbers. The absolute value here is 2. It is 1, 2 spaces away from 0. Here's negative 2. It is 1, 2 spaces away. Its absolute value, the distance from 0, is 2 for both. That's why the answer is 2. It's not that you just knock the negative off. It's the distance from 0 which the number represents. 2, its exact distance is there. If we had negative 3, it would be 3 spaces to 0. 3 would be 3 spaces to 0. That's what absolute value is. So the absolute value of 1 is what? 1. And 1 minus 4? Not 3. Negative 3. Use your calculators. God, you guys are horrible at integers. Use your calculators. All right. So what that gives us, the x value we used, let me put it over here, was negative 1, right? And the value we got for y was negative 3. Move that up a little bit. There we go. So we put negative 1 in for x. That's what x was. That gave us the negative 1. We gave negative 3. So if we did a chart, we had the x's and the y's. Our vertex was negative 2, negative 4. The next number we used was 1. And we got negative 3. So I would graph that dot, negative 1, negative 3. We start here at the origin, at the 0. We go to negative 1. And then we go down to negative 3. 1, 2, 3. And it's right there. All right. Here's the thing. Everything that happens on this side has to happen exactly on that side. So if I am 1 or 1 up and 1 right, I need to go 1 up and 1 left. Everybody see that? 1 up, 1 right. I'm going to go 1 up, 1 left. I just did the opposite of it. Now, if I wanted you to do more than 1, you would take the very next number, which is, this is negative 1. You would take 0. And I'm just going to do this in my head. I put 0 here. 0 plus 2 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. And if I were to graph that at 0, negative 2 would be here. Then I went up 1, 2, 1, 2. So I go up 1, 2, 1, 2, and I would graph it there. So how does this look? Looks just like that. By the way, if I chose to put negative 3 in here, would I get this dot right here? Sure I would. If I put negative 3 in here, negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3, which is what it was. So, without all the superfluous stuff, we're going to go through this. So I want to find the vertex. So over here, draw your x and your y. What do I put down for the x value? Positive 2. It's the opposite of it. Why is that, guy? Because if I put x minus 2 equals 0 and I solve for it, I'm going to get 2. What is the value of the y? Negative 3. Change it, keep it. Change it, leave it. Guys got it? Change it, leave it. So that's our first value. Where do I go? Here's the x, right? I'm going to travel down the x to the 2. Then I'm going to travel down the y to the 3. It's right there. That's our vertex. Use your ruler, dash a line. What happens on one side will happen exactly on the other. We're going to pick the next number closest to 0, towards 0, or one space past the line we're on. We're on 2. So you can pick 3 or you can pick 1. Doesn't matter. It's the number next to it. You could pick 0. Technically, you could pick 0. It's a good one. But we don't need to. Somebody pick a number for me. What do we want? 3 or 1? We'll pick 1. Somebody said 1. So we put a 1 in there. You do what's inside. 1 minus 2. If you use your calculator, you're going to find out that's negative 1. What is the absolute value of negative 1? Positive 1. What's 1 minus 3? It's negative 2. Yeah, use your calculator. It's negative 2. So I'm going to graph that line. I move to the 1 on the x, and then I move down to the negative 2 on the y. Now I want to do the exact opposite of that. I went up 1, left 1, so I'm going to go up 1 and right 1. Now somebody asked about the 3. If I put 3 in here, 3 minus 2 is 1. The absolute value of 1 is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. You come out with the same thing, which would be 3 and negative 2, which is you'd go to the 3 and you go down to negative 2, which is that dot we just did. All right, we're not going to do that second dot. Try to draw the best line you can here. Oops. I don't know why that happened. I prefer 3 dots. Mrs. McKnight doesn't, so as long as you're close. 3 dots would make those lines a lot more accurate. But for the sake of time, because we're just short this year, I want you to get these done and understand. All right, so we still have 2 more. So don't get freaked out just yet. I'm still going to make you draw an XY chart over here. My first dot's going to be what? What is my X, first X? Negative 4. Does everybody understand that? I change it. Now I'm going to leave the next one, and it's going to be what? 1. Change it, leave it. Okay? So that's our first dot. On X, we're going to go to negative 4. On the Y, we're going to go to 1. Negative 4, 1. Does everybody see that? I can go all across to the 1 and go down to the negative 4. That is our axis. That's our vertex, and this is our axis of symmetry. We're going to take our formula, put a parenthesis for the X. We're going to pick the next number over. We could pick negative 3. We could pick negative 5. I always pick the smaller number, base number, I should say, which is I would pick negative 3. You're going to come up with the same answer if you pick negative 5, by the way. This one you could pick 0, but you might be pretty far up there. No, you won't be too bad. 0 is an easy one to pick all the time. And with this program, it shouldn't be too far off, and I'll show you that. So put negative 3 in here. Does everybody see that? I just picked it because it's the next number to the right or to the left of the line that axis of symmetry. Anybody not understand that? I just picked the next one over. -3 plus 4. What's -3 plus 4? If those calculators working, you're going to need them. What'd you get? 1. What's the absolute value of 1? Nope, 1. It's the distance from 0. It is 1 from 0. -1 is 1 from 0. 1 is 1 from 0. It's 1. Your answer for an absolute value is always going to be a positive number because it's the distance. Distances cannot be, you guys know distances can't be negative, right? You can't go -5 miles. You'd be in another dimension or something, okay? Distance is the distance. Absolute value is the distance from 0. Distances are always in positive values. What's 1 plus 1? 2. So we need to go to -3, which is right here on the x, and then 2 on the y, which is right there. Then we're going to do that in reverse. We're up and right, so we're going to go up and left. By the way, if that number that's in front happens to be a negative number, this would be facing downward. It doesn't matter about negatives in the inside because you're always going to have to put a positive value here with your absolute value. Now, you're asking, Ms. Chavez, what about if I did go with 0? 0 plus 4 is what? 4. Absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 plus 1, 5. Here's 0, here's 5. See it? The only problem with that is you're going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and put it over here. 1, 2, 3, which this line is off. That's why I like to do more than one dot. Because technically that line should be right there. The line's off. But that's okay. It's the idea. We're trying to get the idea across to you. I put this one in here just in case you saw it, you didn't get confused with it. This is an actual easy one. But the thing is, you're going to say, well, what's my x value? What do you think it is? Not 1, not -1, 0. Because it's what? It's plus or minus, right? So if it's plus or minus, we always put a 0. If it's in front of the x, it would be 1, or underneath the x. Multiply and divide is a 1. Addition and subtraction is a 0. Those are the identity properties, okay? So it's actually 0. And then the y is -3. So we're at 0 here on the x. That means we don't move. Is everybody looking up here? We're 0 on the x. We don't move. And we go to -3. It's right here on the y-axis. That's our axis of symmetry and our vertex. So from 0, 1, or -1, doesn't matter. Whatever is on the opposite side of this axis of symmetry, I'm going to go with 1 because I don't want to mess with the negative number. Y equals the absolute value of 1 minus 3. What's the absolute value of 1? 1. Always a positive number. Distances are not negative numbers, guys. Absolute value means the distance of the number on the number line to 0. Distances are always in positive numbers. You cannot go a negative distance. If you have, we need to explore that. It's scientific proof that there's another dimension, and you're going to be wealthy if you can return. Okay? Always going to be a positive number, what comes out of the absolute value. What's 1 minus 3? -2. So we go to 1, and we go down to -2. It's right there. We'll do that in reverse. Now I can tell you this. I know if I put 2 in here, it's going to end up going right here. And I know it's going to end up going right here. Just because I know absolute values. It'll help me graph it a little better because it bugs me. So it creates value, absolute value, creating a V. If the number out front, if it's like a 2, it's going to get fatter. If it's a half, it's going to get narrower, right? No, it's going to get narrower if it's a 2, because your values are going to get bigger. If it's a half or something, it's going to get wider. And then if it's negative, it'll face down. I believe. Should. Anyway, there you go. So what are we looking for? We're going to get our vertex, which is the opposite of what's on the inside. If there's nothing there, it's 0. If it's 2, it's -2. If it's 5, it's -5. If it's -10, it's 10. And then you keep that one. Graph that, put a dot. Put the next value over. I would use the smallest value. It's easier. Put that in there for that. Probably a little bit easier to show you this one. We use -3. And then you do that. You're always going to, whatever comes out of the absolute value is going to be a positive number. Add to the back. Put it in there. Ignore that bottom part. Put it on one side. Put it on the other side of the axis of symmetry. So yours needs to look like this. Your work needs to look like this. I will dock you automatic 5 points if you don't do this.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious. Because I want you to know how to do it mathematically. Not always going to have a calculator. It needs to be, each step needs to be shown. You guys are telling me when I ask you what -3 + 4 is, and you're telling me -7. You need to show me. None of you were doing this in your head because nobody could give me a right answer when I asked you about your integers. So, get them done.